chapter 2. The communion of saints. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread, and in prayers. Acts chapter 2, verse 42. Who are the saints? Before we look into the communion of saints, we must first ask, who are the saints? The word saints means a holy people. Yet when we look at the people the Bible calls saints, it is unexpected. Even to the people of the church at Corinth, stained as they were with all kinds of problems, Paul wrote, called to be saints. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 2. It was not because they had proved their holiness by their conduct. It was because they had been sanctified in Christ Jesus. A saint is not a person who has become holy by his own strength, but a person who has been made holy by having his sins washed away through the baptism Jesus received from John and the blood of the cross. Holiness is not an achievement but a gift, and the title saint is not a certificate of qualification but a certificate of identity. Only when this is made clear does the meaning of communion come alive. For the communion of saints is not the fellowship of admirable people. It is the sharing of life among people brought to life by the same gospel. Communion, koinonia. The Greek word koinonia, translated communion, means sharing, participation, and being together. The Bible paints the early church like this, and they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread, and in prayers. Now all who believed were together, and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all, as anyone had need. Acts chapter 2, verse 42, and verses 44 through 45. Notice here the order of fellowship. The apostles' teaching comes first, and fellowship follows it. The communion of the early church was not the socializing of like-minded people. It was life flowing among people who had received the same gospel. What bound them into one was neither hobby, nor class, nor blood. The only reason Jew and Greek, slave and free, rich and poor could sit at one table was the fact that they had all passed their sins on to the same Lamb, and had all been bought at the price of the same blood. John set this order out clearly. That which we have seen and heard we declare to you, that you also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father, and with His Son Jesus Christ. 1 John chapter 1, verse 3. The purpose of preaching the gospel is fellowship, and that fellowship, before it is the horizontal fellowship of people with one another, is vertical fellowship with God. Only those who have been reconciled to God can be truly at peace with one another. The communion of saints is the sideways overflow of the reconciliation each person has with God. Members of one body, Paul compared the relationship of the saints to a body. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13. For as the body is one, and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12. The metaphor of the body shows that the communion of saints is not optional. Because the members are joined to one another, if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. And if one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 26. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor the head to the feet, I have no need of you. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 21. The members that seem weaker are all the more indispensable. There is a challenge this metaphor throws at today's church. Consumers have no need to be connected to one another. Customers of the same store each buy what they need and each go home. When the church becomes a supplier of religious services, believers become such customers, and communion disappears. A crowd that gathers in one space on Sunday and scatters without so much as a greeting is not a body, however great its number. What makes a body is not programs but life. People born again of the same gospel recognize one another even at first meeting, for they are brothers and sisters born of the same Father. What do they share? Then what do the saints share in communion with one another? First, they share faith. They confirm with one another that they are holding to the same gospel and hold up wavering members with the word. Comfort each other and edify one another, just as you also are doing. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11. A coal left alone soon goes out, but coals gathered together burn long. So it is with faith. They also share life. They rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Romans chapter 12, verse 15. That the saints of the early church shared even their possessions and property was not an imposed institution, but the natural expression of overflowing life. James says, if a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? James chapter 2, verses 15 through 16. Communion is not a greeting of words, but a sharing of life. And above all, they share the mission. The fellowship of the saints is not a destination in itself. The early church gathered to have fellowship and scattered to preach the gospel. The strength charged in fellowship flowed out into witness. Saints who have confirmed the gospel together going out together to the souls fallen among thieves who do not yet know this gospel. That is the completion of communion. The reason Paul so loved the church at Philippi was, your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. Philippians chapter 1, verse 5. Fellowship in the gospel and co-working for the gospel, this is the deepest koinonia, a visible shadow of heaven. A community in which the communion of saints is fully realized is a foretaste of heaven on this earth. The psalmist sang, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Psalm 133, verse 1. And Jesus prayed that they all may be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. John chapter 17, verse 21. The very oneness of the saints becomes a witness to the world. The world sees what the church looks like before it hears what the church preaches. A church that bites and devours one another cannot persuade the world with any eloquence. while a church that loves one another testifies to the gospel even in silence. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. John chapter 13, verse 35. Do not forget what the foundation of this beautiful communion is: the remission of sins. People whose problem of sin is unresolved wear masks before one another, for they are afraid their true state will be exposed. But those who know that their sins have already been laid bare and passed on to the Lamb can be honest before one another. And only honest people can truly have fellowship. Therefore, the communion of saints stands on the next confession, the forgiveness of sins. Now we enter that confession of all the confessions of the Apostles' Creed, the one that touches our existence most directly.